So here's what I have to say, quote, "As a Unitarian Christian, Tuggy likes to publicly challenge the traditional Trinitarian approach to understanding the ontological nature of God by use of his expertise in analytics and philosophy." Recall that this phrase, ontological, ontology, if I just click on my definition version, ontological or ontology is related to the branch of metaphysics dealing with the nature of being. How do we define a being? What is its makeup? What is its nature? So, and analytics is the systematic computational analysis of data or statistics. So, Dr. Dale Tuggy is a philosopher, but he's a Christian and he's an analytic theologian. So he's used to processing information in terms of logical thought process and how do statements line up logically so that they're not incoherent. That's his primary field of expertise. And it's not wrong to appreciate the logistics or logic of any particular truth claim. This is a helpful practice, although unfortunately most of us are not trained in how to do it. I am no trained philosopher. Let me just tell you that right up front. I am not a philosopher. I espouse to be one, and I do have a degree in psychology, which required me to take classes in philosophy. So I appreciate and respect the discipline of philosophy, and I have books here on my shelf that deal with analytic philosophy, and so I can understand syllogisms and more forms of logic known as like modus ponens and modus tollens and things like that. Modus ponens, where you prove by proving and you disprove by disproving, and you break down a sentence, a truth claim along the lines of premise A, premise B, and leads to a conclusion. So I understand a little bit of how Dr. Tuggy's mind works. But when it comes to understanding and articulating God, we don't have enough verbiage in the Bible to give us all of the satisfactory terminology that we as modern Bible readers would care to have so that we can articulate our position. And this is really the challenge of the early first church fathers, is that they didn't have enough language in the Bible, so they started creating language on their own. Let's continue. Tuggy, although a Christian, nevertheless believes the historical creedal truth claims to represent incoherent formal logic when describing God in all language related to his nature and his being. So he has a problem with the creeds. If you go back and read the Nicene Creed, the Athanasian creeds, and the language that is formulated out of all of those particular early church meetings, Dr. Tuggy looks at that language and says, the language that you guys are using is inconsistent or incoherent with the language that the Bible uses. And so Dr. Tuggy, like many of us Trinitarians, oddly enough, is trying to get back to the basics of the Bible. And so for that endeavor, we have to respect his approach. But he goes on to say, on his Trinities blog webpage, he makes following remarks about the confusing language that many Christians, particularly evangelical ones, frequently use when speaking about the claim that Jesus is God. So listen up for a moment, because this will be helpful for those of us who are Trinitarians. It's helpful to understand what your opponent is saying about you, so that you can either A, refute those claims, or B, clarify them. Right? If my opponent says, well, Ariel teaches that there are three gods, should I just sit back and let him say that in public? No. What I should do is say, no. What I want to say right up front is that when my opponent, and when I say opponent, you know what I mean, we're having an in-house debate over the nature of God. So I mean my debate opponent. That's what I mean. The person who takes the opposite position. I say that the Unitarians say that, in other words, we Trinitarians are accused of worshiping three gods by the Unitarians. So let me stop and ask you, Trinitarians out there who are within earshot of this particular podcast YouTube video, do you believe in three gods? I hope you're saying no. I hope you're saying no. No, of course we don't. But guess what? Unless you understand and listen to the dialogues that are taking place in Unitarian circles, you may never know that that's what they're saying about us, right? And you may not know how to refute it. So listen up for a moment. It's very helpful. Here's what Dr. Tuggy says about Unitarian perspectives.